Welcome to Scaling with Purpose Beyond Profit, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to build a business that thrives, not just in profit, but in purpose, stewardship, and lasting kingdom impact. I'm Brenda, a kingdom entrepreneur, business advisor, and the founder of Be Advisory Global, where we help leaders build sustainable, purpose-driven businesses that create influence far beyond the bottom line. Because ultimately, success isn't only what we build, it's about the purpose behind it, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave. Our title today is Master Your Money, Cash Flow Systems for Growth. I'll repeat it again, Master Your Money, Cash Flow Systems for Growth. Every episode, we begin by grounding ourselves in a principle that shapes how we view business and life. And today's anchor comes from the book of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10, which says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. This scripture reminds us that stewardship isn't something we practice after success. It's what prepares us for growth. And joining me today is Tsungai Masendeke, the director of IWCP, a certified award-winning financial planner. And I also know she's a wealth coach. Tsungai, it's an honor to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for having me. And I love the drive as well as the background to what you're doing. Well done.
Thank you. So Tsungai, tell us a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to pursue financial planning and creation of generational wealth.
So my journey actually started many years ago. I was a student at UCT, and as a student at UCT, being an international student, you always have to pay what we call an upfront fee. Okay, and that upfront fee is approximately half of your annual school fees, and it all has to be paid around February at the beginning of the year. And now I was in my third year and bordering exclusion. All those that have been through the UCT streets know exclusion is a real thing. And my exclusion was not academic, which is in most cases. Mine was bordering financial exclusion because at the time things were extremely difficult in the country I come from, which is Zimbabwe. And my parents were really struggling with the escalating inflation and high fees for doing international transfers to actually raise the money that was required for me to register as an international student. And I remember having this conversation with my dad on whether or not he'd be able to pay the fees or not, whether or not I should move out of res or stay in between two iconic residences at UCT called Smuts and Fuller. And in between those two reses are students' cars. All right, so those students that stay in Fuller and in Smuts, their cars are parked right in the middle of these two iconic residences. And I'm not talking about, Tata Indicas or VWs or Opel Corsas. No, they parked Porsches, they parked Fortunas, they parked Jaguars, they parked high-end type of cars in that parking lot. And that one moment changed the trajectory of my entire life because I said to myself, how is it that I'm having this conversation about survival with my parents? And yet these children have a different kind of conversation with their parents, asking about fuel, money for fuel, asking about money for licensing, money for tires, money to maintain their cars. And here I am asking for money just to make it through a semester. So that's where my journey started because then I wanted to understand how is it that some people have and some people don't? How is it some people are more well prepared and others aren't? And I found myself in a lifelong quest for knowledge, for empowerment that led me to financial planning.
Wow, such an insightful story. Now that you're an entrepreneur, and I believe as an entrepreneur, this gives you a unique vantage point. What are some of the most common financial mistakes you see entrepreneurs making when it comes to managing their money?
Oh, the first one is not budgeting properly. And what I want to call an instant wealth syndrome. All of a sudden, you get that big deal, you get that big tender, and what happens? You think you've arrived. And because you think you've arrived, you buy the latest car, you move out of the humble office park you were in, you go into a P-grade office park. You also change location, even change your kids in the schools that they are because now you think you've arrived. But it's one deal, okay? It's not a reflection of future cash flows. So then they blow it. They blow the money that they got from that one iconic opportunity that was actually supposed to help stretch their cash flow for the next 6 months, 12 months, even 24 months. So that's big mistake number one, blowing cash flow, not budgeting appropriately. Then the other big thing, and please hear me and hear me clearly, is not having a proper succession plan in place. As entrepreneurs, our business is our babies. For most of us, we are the be it and all. We are the ones operationally involved. You're involved in marketing, you're involved in comms, you're involved in finance, you're involved in recruitment, you're involved in everything because you want to save costs. But the question you have to ask yourself is, if I'm not here tomorrow, if I want to take a holiday, who's going to manage all of this? So your systems need to be in place, but you also need to have a formidable succession plan so that your legacy doesn't die with you. And more often than not, we find that when entrepreneurs pass away, the business dies with them because there was never any clear succession planning. So those are probably my two key points. Number one, make sure you manage your cash flow, make sure you've got a good budget in place, and make sure you also have a proper succession plan in place.
Wonderful. And I understand revenue is often termed the star of the show, but cash flow is the heartbeat of a business. So looking at all the challenges and the mistakes or the shortfalls of being an entrepreneur in terms of managing cash flows, what would you say are the daily or weekly habits that entrepreneurs should put in place to ensure that they have a healthy cash flow?
Oh, and this is a very simple principle where I say you must allocate your monthly income into buckets. So there are buckets for long-term savings, as an example. Then there's going to be a bucket that you allocate for immediate needs. For example, your rent, your salaries, your phone bill, Wi-Fi or fiber. And then there's also a bucket there that you keep for growth and expansion. So I'd put it in those three main categories: one for savings and investments, another one for capital expenditure, and another one for your day-to-day expenditure, or what the monthly expenses you incur in your business. So if you can follow that simple principle of making sure that when money comes, you apportion it proportionately to those needs over time with discipline, you then actually have an emergency fund. And that emergency fund can then help you in your poor months or in the months where you actually haven't generated enough cash. Because the honest truth is, your landlord doesn't care that you've got an invoice for 1 million if you can't pay rent for this month. Okay? Because they want your rental account serviced. So you want to make sure that you've got enough provisions or cash flow, which I call a runway, for at least 6 to 12 months, so that no matter what happens, your daily expenditure pool can always be catered for.
Okay. And I see many entrepreneurs, especially when they are starting their business, they pour everything into their business, and you are giving us tips on how to manage the cash flow on a day-to-day basis from a business perspective. Why is it essential for entrepreneurs to also build their personal wealth alongside their business?
And that is such murky water, because a lot of entrepreneurs have their expenses intermingling with the business expenses, and sometimes they're the ones lending the money to the business, etc. But remember, these are two separate entities, and you actually want to separate them so that you can see which one of the two needs more development or more help. So it always is a good thing, if you are in a business, draw a salary, because then again, you set boundaries for yourself. You know what your own personal expenses are and what the business expenses are. But it also makes it easier down the line if you want to then apply for funding, if you want to apply for financing or bridging finance for your business. If it is quite clear in the financials how much you're taking from the business, how often, how much you've also invested in the business, it makes it much easier for a funder to say, okay, is this a viable or sustainable business, or is there nothing to actually invest here? So it's important that right from day one, you have the habit of separating your personal expenses from your business expenses, because over time you create clear records of who's who in the zoo.
Moving on to kingdom stewardship in money. I understand you are a kingdom entrepreneur. So from a kingdom stewardship perspective, how should entrepreneurs think about money, wealth, and financial growth in a way that aligns with purpose and their faith?
So for me, tithing is a non-negotiable. Let's start there. I always believe if God can trust us with 100%, because we do get 100% of the income, but all he asks for is 10% as a partner in our business. It's not too much to ask for. So as a kingdom entrepreneur, basic is to obviously tithe for me, and that's non-negotiable. And then the next thing that becomes important as a kingdom entrepreneur is to understand, like you correctly said, purposefulness. So philanthropy is important, being able to also give back. And giving back can take multiple forms. It can be giving back in the form of time, i.e., investing in the next generation of professionals. It can be in the form of sharing your talent, so being able to mentor other entrepreneurs, or it can be in the form of sharing your treasure, so being able to actually invest in a particular philanthropic activity that you resonate with. So this could be helping disabled children, it could be helping the elderly, it could be helping less fortunate individuals, or it could be helping people that have experienced GBV. It can be anything, but you can decide, how do I partner with other individuals and share either my time, my talent, or my treasure? And at the end of the day, maybe as a startup, you might not have the opportunity to share in terms of treasure, but you can definitely share in the form of talent. Okay, you can share in the form of time, mentoring upcoming interns, or being able to actually provide opportunities to speak at schools to inspire the next generation of professionals. So that again, we continuously invest, we continuously give back. But I think the important thing I want to emphasize is giving back is not a straight line for everyone. It can take different forms.
Wow. So this podcast is about scaling with purpose beyond profit. What does that phrase mean to you personally?
It's quite interesting because you are putting kind of a curveball, because most entrepreneurs, when they're actually going to business, it's for profitability, unless you're an NPO. So yes, profitability is important, but I think the important aspect you bring in there is the purposefulness. And I was actually having a conversation with myself in the shower the other day, and I was asking myself questions. Just because you're good at something does not necessarily mean that you're called to be in that domain. Okay. Just because you are actually great at something does not mean that you could be passionate about it. And I think it becomes important to align passion, purpose, and profitability. Because when you actually look at those three things, it enables sustainability of your business. So when I'm passionate about what I'm doing, I'm purposeful in terms of, caring for the planet, caring for people, caring for the place I'm in, profitability will follow. If you are purposeful in the solutions you provide people, profitability is a no-brainer. So if I am a medical doctor, as an example, and I help people with making sure that I remove bad teeth in their mouth, it's purposeful. And because it's purposeful, anytime someone has a problem I'm solving for them, it results in money actually coming to me and there being profitability. So I think it's important for every entrepreneur to actually understand what problem are they solving for people, because that's where the purpose is going to come. But I also want to emphasize the importance of passion for whatever it is you're doing, because money can come if you're solving any problem, but you want to enjoy the money whilst you're making it. And if you're not purposeful, if you're not called to be in that domain, it's going to wear you out, it's going to cause stress, it's going to cause health-related issues. So for me, I've actually learned as I grow older, you need to enjoy what you do. You need to be passionate about it. You need to be purposeful about it. Otherwise, it's going to be a big drag that actually causes health elements. And there are several books that speak to the psychology of people, the neuroscience and the makeup of people, and why it's important that purpose aligns with passion, it aligns with profitability to ensure sustainability.
Wow. If you could leave entrepreneurs with one or two financial principles that truly shift how they operate, what would they be?
So, I've got so many principles, but I think I'll come back to the first question you asked me. What should they be doing? Number one, make sure your cash flow is in order. All right. Your cash flow needs to be in order because cash is king for a reason. You want to be able to manage the day-to-day obligations of running the business. And the best way to do that is if you've got cash in the bank. Then the second thing I would advocate for from a financial perspective, from a financial planning perspective, is make sure you've got that succession plan in place. It can be in the form of a will, it can be in the form of a trust, it can be in the form of a buy and sell agreement, but do it. Do it for yourself so that your legacy does not die with you.
Wow. Tsungai, thank you so much. Your insights today have been both practical and deeply grounding. I believe this conversation reminds us that real financial growth isn't simply about earning more, but it's about managing wisely, planning intentionally, and also stewarding with a kingdom mindset. Thank you so much, Tsungai. And thank you so much, our listeners, for joining us on Scaling with Purpose Beyond Profit. If today's conversation added value to your journey, share it with another entrepreneur who is building not only for profit, but for impact. Because when purpose leads, profit becomes a tool for stewardship, influence, and legacy. Until next time, keep building boldly and keep scaling with purpose.